Hello and welcome to the Barrow. I am the Barrow White, and today we will be starting a Kerbal Space Program career mode game. And let's go ahead and get that going. So I'll start the game. I should have no games in here. Shouldn't have anything in resumed. Nope, I didn't think so. I got rid of all those. So start new. We will call this the Barrow 2019-1. Make just a plain flag just so I can see it. Don't have any other flags I'm really totally interested in. We'll accept that. We'll leave it at difficulty options normal. Start. And I'm only going to have a couple of mods on here. Just ones that'll show me Delta V and things of that nature in stage information a little bit better than the base game does, even with the most recent updates. And so we will start as you usually start a career game, by getting into mission control, and we'll gather some scientific data from Kerbin. We'll go ahead and launch our first vessel as well. You can only have 2 when you first start a career, so that's a good place to start. So we'll go into the vehicle assembly building and put together a little bit of a rocket here. Start with astronauts in the cabin. We'll start with Jebediah. He's our usual guy and I like him, so we'll start with him. And you don't have a whole lot of parts when you begin, so we're just going to get the little bit that we do have. One thing I do have on here is Kerbal Engineer Redux, Kerbal Engineering Redux, and I put that on there because that'll give you some extra information like apoapsis and periapsis and things of that nature when you are in the main flight screen, and it's pretty useful to have. Go ahead and put a Moon Goo Mystery Goo containment unit right there. I believe it's all the science I have to start with. Don't really start the game with much else, and you don't start with any kind of science points, so you can't choose anything else. So with that started, I think we can go ahead and make sure that we have things staged correctly. So we have a rocket stage, which is this Flea solid fuel booster, and then of course a parachute phase to get back to the planet safely. Let's go ahead and launch. Alright, Jebediah looks good in the cabin. Let's go ahead and collect some science right here. That'll give us 3 science points. He hasn't had much training, but he can get out of the rocket while we're still sitting on the planet. So I'll go ahead and do an EVA report. Then we'll hit B and get back into the ship. We'll go ahead and do a crew report. So I've got all my science taken care of. Shouldn't really have to worry about it anymore. Let's go ahead and put Jebediah in control. And I'm going to launch in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so that fuel will burn out really quick in that Flea. And now we'll just wait for it to get to the top of its flight and start falling, and we'll launch that parachute. What's interesting is in the base game, without the Kerbal Engineering Redux, this information is not available on the main screen. You actually have to go into the map and see it here. You can see here our apoapsis is about 11.5. To jump back and forth like that is not convenient, so I like this app here, this mod. Go ahead and speed up to about that. We're almost at 11.5. It's probably going to fall here in a moment anyhow. There it goes. And then you can see we're no longer positive ascent. We are now negative descent. All right. We're falling. And when I get under 10,000, I'll go ahead and pop that parachute. We should be right over the space complex. We are. Good. Things are looking great. If I look at the results, we've already launched our first vessel, And as soon as we get back to the space station or space command center, we can gather that scientific data and get those points. I'm going to go ahead and use the time warp and get us closer to the planet. The parachute ought to open in a moment. There it goes. Slow us way down to about 6, 7. There you go. Meters per second. And now we just got to wait to land. And I'll go ahead and time warp a little bit again to get us to go ahead and touch down. Good. We are landed. We'll recover the vessel. And we have completed our first 2 missions. Nice. And now I have 22 science points. And a little bit of money. So we can go into the Technology Center, or what's it called? Into the Research and Development, and basic rocketry we want to get right away. Get the swivel engine because it does give us gimbaling, a bigger solid fuel booster, and a bigger fuel tank. We'll go ahead and research that. Definitely want this decoupler, a thermometer so we could do more science, and some antennas so we could actually transmit some data back and forth. That only leaves us with 12.9 left, and these next levels require at least 15. What is here at this 15? This one here will give us a heat shield, and that's really what we'd want next, and maybe a service bay to protect our science equipment. Let's go ahead and exit there and go see what other missions are now available. Quite a few. Of course, the missions from whatever this department is actually give us are the basic missions, I suppose you would call them. They're from the Kerbin World First Record Keeping Society, and these rest are from other organizations and companies and things like that that'll give us money and science points. So if we escape the atmosphere, we can get some money and some science. If we orbit Kerbin, we can get some money and some science. Let's go ahead and choose escape the atmosphere for sure. Right, here's a good one. Test the Hammer solid fuel booster at the launch site. Let's get that one because that one should be an easy one. We'll go into the vehicle assembly building. And instead of using the flea, we will use the hammer. Come on. There we go. Attach it on there. I'm going to go ahead and right click it and just make sure it doesn't have any fuel and turn the thrust limiter off because I don't actually want to launch. I'm going to go ahead and launch to the launch pad. But rather than launching, I'm just going to run a test, which should give us a green for launching, testing at the launch site. Good. Let's go ahead and recover that vessel and get all of our money back for the parts, plus some science. Now we're at 23. I think I'll go back to the research and development and go ahead and get the heat shield. Not enough science to research this node. Oh, I guess I read that wrong. I thought it said 22. No worries. Let's go see what other missions we have. Anything else at the launch site? That's always convenient. I don't really need that right now to be able to get into the atmosphere or to escape the atmosphere. So let's just go in and not worry about more science at the moment. And just see if we can get into the atmosphere. So, to get into the atmosphere, we're now going to use some fuel tanks. I think that's way more than I need to escape the atmosphere. So a new feature down here shows us the delta V for a stage, which is great. And 2000 will definitely get us out of the atmosphere. One thing I definitely want to do though is decouple. And that's just to be able to separate my astronaut in his command module from this big long piece of tank. All right, update our staging there. This is a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and put some fins on here so that it flies straight into space. I'm really just going to be flying up, and because I can, let's go ahead and put a thermometer on here so that we can do some science when we escape the atmosphere. Actually, I'm going to put another one of these on here so I can do two. I'm going to recover it, so I'm not going to worry about transmitting. I think that ought to be good. So with that said, let's go ahead and launch. All right, I think we're ready. We'll give Jebediah control of that. Put the throttle to full and launch. 70,000 meters is where you escape the atmosphere. So when this gets to about 80, I'm just going to cut the fuel. Things are looking fine. About halfway up, halfway out of fuel, and doing great. As I said, when it gets over 70, but about 80 is when I'm going to cut that. There we go. Now just to let that drop back. And now I'll just wait. All right, so let's do some science. Let's wait till I get out of the atmosphere, though. I'll do one in the atmosphere. And then I will use the time warp to get us above 70,000. We got to get a green when we get above 70. There it goes. Good. Now I'll do another temperature. Good. 8 science for that. I'll do a moon goo. 10 science for that. Nice. I'll have him go ahead and do a crew report. 5 more science. Now, I haven't studied enough or paid to upgrade the astronaut complex, so Jebediah cannot do a spacewalk yet. I'll get those science points later. But we're pretty high right now. Look at that. We're starting to fall, though. And so if I hit space warp now, it'll warp the time, or time warp, but it'll go back to 1 as soon as it gets into the atmosphere. We're not going fast enough that it should heat up enough to worry about anything. So now I'm just going to time warp until we get down to about 10,000. Looks like we're above the ocean. So the altitude terrain that this mod gives us and the actual altitude is the same. I believe those were the things that I threw off a while ago, crashing into the ground somewhere. All right. Good. Looks like an oil slick. I'm sure it's not, but I wonder what that is. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's a mess from my rocket parts crashing into the ocean. Don't think so. So I'm going to go ahead and time warp again to get us closer to the ocean. Get that parachute to open at about 1,500, 1,000. 1,000. there's that dirty line again. I'm not sure what that is. If that's just a glitch of the graphics, or if that's an underwater ridge, or just nothing. So I'm going to time warp till we get close to the surface. Okay, we're almost there. All right, we'll touch down just a few. Very good. Now he does have the skill to do an EVA anywhere on the surface, so I'll have him get out and do an EVA report right here. Give us more science. Get back in. Let's go ahead and recover this vessel. All right, that was a really good haul right there. Besides finishing a mission, we were able to do a lot of science and ended up now with a total of 69 science and some money, which is good because we're probably going to need that money to upgrade the vehicle assembly building soon and the launch pad, because we're going to need bigger and more complicated rockets. So let's go to mission control and see what we want to do next. See if there's any science that we can do, or any easy testing we can do. Here's haul a heat shield into flight. It just says, oh, you have to be going crazy fast though. I don't like that one. Crazy fast at a low altitude. That one is not practical. Here's a haul a swivel engine super high. Just super high, and you get 5 science. All right, we'll do that one here in a little bit. Test a parachute in flight over Kerbin. You have to be going fairly slow, fairly low, and just test it. Get 4 science for it. We can do that one. And test a T-coupler. All right, all of these are pretty easy, but let's just go ahead and choose an orbit Kerbin. And we will spend some of our points. So as I said before, for 15 I can buy a heat shield, is what I would probably be using right away out of all the stuff that comes with this. Comes with another science though, the pressure mat barometer, which would give us more science points. So it's probably a valuable one for us to spend 15 points on. This gives us the radial decoupler, and we're probably going to need that, because that'll allow us to put side tanks on and kick them off, but continue to push ourselves upward with a central system. And general rocketry gives us just bigger tanks. So I'm going to get these two. I'm going to get the nose cone for aerodynamics, better fin or a winglet, and a radial decoupler. And we'll go ahead and get the new science instrument, the barometer, and heat shields. This is what we'll be using right away. We'll leave the 36 left over for later. All right, and I think that was a beginning first episode. Pretty good one. We got the very basic stuff accomplished, and when we come back, we will jump into the vehicle assembly building and put together our first orbiting vessel. Thanks. We'll see you soon.